Imagine a woman who cheats on you, then looks you in the eye and says, "I'm taking half your business." And when threats don't work, she brings criminals to scare you into giving up everything you built. But what she didn't know is that I had already left her a digital trap that would destroy her life. That's where my story begins. And believe me, this isn't some overblown drama. This is exactly what happened to me. My ex didn't just want to break up. She wanted to break me. She wanted to leave me with nothing but ashes while she walked away with my company, my money, and my future. Before I get into the full chaos of how it all went down, make sure you stick with me. I share stories like this all the time. Real revenge, real drama, nothing sugarcoated. So if you want more crazy stories where people finally get what they deserve, don't forget to hit subscribe. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's rewind. Back to when things looked almost perfect that I met her when my business was still just an idea on a notepad and a dream in my head. I was working late nights in a tiny rented office, eating instant noodles, hustling just to keep the lights on. She walked into my life with a smile that made me forget how exhausted I was. At first, she was supportive, even encouraging. She'd bring me food when I worked late, tell me I was destined for something big. Back then, I believed she was by my side because she loved me. But here's the truth. Some people don't stick around because they love you. They stick around because they're waiting to see if you'll actually make it. And once you do, that's when they show their true face. That why company started growing. Small contracts turned into big ones. I built a client base, launched a website, invested in marketing, and slowly but surely, I went from struggling to pay rent to hiring my first employees. And right when money started flowing in, she shifted. She wasn't the supportive girlfriend anymore. She became controlling. That she'd demand to see numbers, ask for access to accounts, question every expense. And when I'd tell her it wasn't her lane, she'd get mad, accuse me of not trusting her. I thought maybe I was being unfair. So I gave her limited access. Nothing critical, just enough to make her feel included. Looking back, that was my first mistake, but it also set the stage for the trap I'd later build. Our relationship was cracking behind the scenes, but I was too focused on growth to see it clearly. The late nights, the constant pressure, the stress of trying to scale, it put distance between us. I thought we were just in a rough patch. But then, I found out she wasn't just tired of me. She was sleeping with someone else. That moment, it changed everything. That it wasn't even the cheating that hit me the hardest. It was the smug way she acted when I confronted her. Like I was the idiot. Like I should have expected it. She packed a bag, walked out, and I thought that was it. Painful. Sure, but over. I couldn't have been more wrong. 2 weeks later, she came back. Not with an apology. Not with guilt. She came back with demands. She said she deserved half of my business because she had been there from the beginning. I laughed in her face. That's when her eyes went cold. She told me she wasn't asking, she was taking. And that's when I realized this wasn't going to be a breakup. This was going to be war. So I played it cool. I didn't fight. I didn't scream. I acted like maybe she had a point. And while she thought I was softening, I was already planning. I started building a parallel system, copying my files, moving contracts, creating backups no one but me could touch. And on the system I left for her, I set a trap. See, when someone thinks they're clever, the best thing you can do is let them prove it. I wanted her to think she was winning. I wanted her to believe she had the keys to the kingdom. Meanwhile, all she had was a fake version, one where every password, every login, every file was designed to collapse the second she touched it. And that's where this story really begins. Because when she came for me, when she thought she had it all, that's when she fell straight into my digital snare. When people see success, they think it happens overnight. They see the cars, the office, the freedom, but they never see the grind behind it. The truth is, my business was born from sleepless nights, skipped meals, and years of risk. I wasn't born into money. My parents worked blue-collar jobs, and I started this company with a cheap laptop and a second-hand desk. The company was my blood and sweat. I built websites for small local businesses, but I had a bigger vision. I wanted to create an online platform that connected small businesses with marketing tools they could actually afford. Nothing flashy, just something practical. Slowly, word spread. The platform grew. By the time I was 27, it was no longer a side project. It was my life's work, and she was there through that rise. At least physically. I'll give her that. She was around when the office was barely furnished and when I worked until dawn. But she wasn't in meetings. She wasn't on sales calls. She didn't negotiate contracts or build code. She just existed next to me. And somehow in her mind, that made her entitled to half of everything I built. As the money started flowing, her behavior shifted. She stopped being my girlfriend and started acting like a shareholder. She demanded to sit in on meetings. She'd interrupt conversations with clients, making ridiculous suggestions that had nothing to do with the business. She didn't understand strategy, but she wanted the title of co-founder. At first, I brushed it off. I thought, fine, let her feel important. I even gave her a business email address. It wasn't connected to anything sensitive, just a shallow account that made her feel like part of the team. But then, she started asking for more. Bank access, contract access, passwords, every single thing that should have been locked down. Tight. That's when my alarm bells went off. That I remember one night clearly. I came home late, and she was sitting on the couch with my laptop open. When I asked what she was doing, she said she was helping me by checking some financials. But I knew the laptop wasn't logged into anything related to finances. It was my work machine, filled with private project files. I asked her how she got in. She smiled and said, "You should really make your passwords harder." That was the first time I realized she'd been snooping. That IT wasn't an innocent mistake. She had been trying to get into accounts for weeks. I saw the failed login attempts in the system logs. She wasn't just curious, she was digging, trying to figure out what she could take. And instead of confronting her, I did something smarter. I let her keep going. From that moment on, I started planting seeds. I set up duplicate files. I created shadow logins that looked real but were completely disconnected from the actual business. I made sure that if she tried to access the important stuff, what she found was nothing but smoke and mirrors. But she wasn't satisfied with digital snooping. She started showing up at the office uninvited. At first, the employees thought it was cute, the boss's girlfriend checking in. But then she started questioning them about their contracts, about who signed their checks, about how much access they had. She even tried to flirt her way into getting one of my developers to hand over the back-end credentials. That's when my team started to notice, too. One of my most trusted employees pulled me aside and said, "Look, man, I don't know what's going on between you two, but she's acting like she owns the place. And it's making everyone uncomfortable." I couldn't argue with him. She was acting like she owned the place. And I knew then, it was only a matter of time before she made her move. The tension at home was unbearable. Every dinner turned into an interrogation. What accounts are under your name? How much did that client pay? Do you have backups? Where are the contracts stored? She thought she was subtle, but she wasn't. She was circling me like a vulture. And then came the ultimatum point one night. After weeks of passive-aggressive fights, she said it outright. "If you really love me, you'll make me your equal in the business." That was it. That was her card. She didn't care about love. She didn't care about us. She wanted a title, control, money. That I looked her dead in the eye and said, "You don't deserve half of this business. You didn't build it." Her face changed instantly. The smile dropped. Her voice went cold. And that's when she whispered something that stayed with me. "If you don't give me what I want, I'll find a way to take it." I didn't realize it at the time, but that was her declaration of war. And from that moment forward, I knew this wasn't just about protecting my company. It was about protecting myself. So I went deeper into my plan. I made her think she was getting access, while in reality, every door she opened was a decoy. She thought she was stepping into the vault, but really, she was walking straight into a trap. Because if she wanted to come for my empire, I was going to let her. I was going to give her just enough rope to hang herself. Cheating doesn't just cut you, it humiliates you. It makes you wonder how someone could take everything you gave them, your time, your trust, your loyalty, and throw it away like trash. That I didn't catch her by snooping through her phone. I caught her in real time. She told me she was going out with friends from work. Hours passed. No messages. No calls. Something in my gut twisted, so I checked her location. She wasn't at a bar. She was across town at an apartment complex. That I drove there, parked across the street. And that's when I saw her, coming out of the building with some guy, his arm draped around her. They kissed before she got in her car. That image branded itself into me like a hot iron. When she walked in that night, I didn't scream. I didn't throw plates. I just asked one question. "How long?" She froze. then gave me a smirk that still makes my blood boil. Long enough to realize I can do better. That was it. She packed a bag and stormed out, like she was the victim. I thought that was the end. Painful? Yes. But final. That I couldn't have been more wrong. 2 weeks later, she walked back into my office. Not crying. Not apologizing. Dressed sharp, makeup perfect, carrying herself like she owned the place. She wasn't coming back for love. She was coming back for war. I want half, she said, dropping her bag on the chair. No hesitation. No shame. I was there from the beginning. I deserve 50% of this company. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was insane. You think showing up and hanging around means you built this? You didn't. Write a single line of code. You didn't sign a single client. You don't own a damn thing. Her eyes hardened. I know your accounts. I know where the money is. You can either give me what I want, or I'll take it another way. And then she left. That's when I realized the breakup wasn't the battle. It was just the opening shot. The harassment started immediately. She showed up to meetings uninvited, told clients she was my partner, tried to worm her way into contracts. My employees noticed. She even cornered one of them, asking for back-end access like she was the boss. And then came the night that changed everything. IT was late. I was alone in the office, finishing a proposal. The front door banged open so hard the glass rattled. She marched in, but she wasn't alone. 2 men followed her, thick-necked, tattooed, the kind of guys who don't walk into offices, they invade them. Sign the papers, she spat, slamming a folder onto my desk. Now, one of them dragged a chair around, sat down across from me, his arms resting on the back. The other stood behind me, his shadow swallowing me whole. I could smell the smoke on his jacket. Then his knuckles cracked, slow and loud, like gunshots. You heard her, the man behind me growled. Sign, or this gets ugly. She smirked. This doesn't have to be hard. Just give me what's mine. What's yours? I shot back. You've lost your mind. Her face twisted. With rage. Break his hand. She snapped at the man behind me. He won't be able to type. He won't be able to run anything. His palm slammed down on my shoulder, iron fingers digging deep. The chair creaked under the pressure. Pain burned through me, but I kept my face stone cold. And then, the man in front leaned closer, his voice sharp, suspicious. Wait, what exactly are we getting out of this? She snapped instantly. Half the company. He signs, we're rich. All of us. He didn't smile. He didn't nod. He looked me dead in the eyes. That true. I forced my voice steady. She doesn't own anything. No contracts. No shares. Nothing. She's lying to you. The grip on my shoulder loosened just a little. Silence filled the room. Heavy, suffocating silence. Then the guy in front stood up, slow and deliberate. He looked at her with pure disgust. You dragged us here on a lie. We put our necks on the line for nothing. He grabbed her arm, yanking her toward the door. She screamed, cursed, tried to claw her way free, but they dragged her out, their patience gone. The door slammed shut. I sat there, breathing hard, my shoulder throbbing, my hands shaking. For a few terrifying minutes, I thought they'd actually do it. I thought I'd be beaten bloody, forced to sign my life away. That night lit a fire in me. Because now I knew. The truth. She wasn't just dangerous. She was reckless enough to get me killed. And that meant I couldn't play defense anymore. If she wanted a war, I was going to give her one. On my terms. After that night in the office, the night she brought hired muscle to threaten me, I couldn't shake the weight of it. My shoulder ached where his grip had crushed down, but the pain wasn't the worst part. The worst part was realizing just how reckless she'd become. She wasn't bluffing anymore. She was ready to destroy me, even if it meant dragging criminals into my life. And that told me something important. If she was willing to risk my life, she'd risk hers too. So I decided I wasn't going to just defend myself. I was going to outsmart her. If she wanted war, I'd turn it into a game she couldn't win. My business wasn't stacks of cash lying around. It wasn't a storefront someone could burn down. It lived in the digital world. Contracts, servers, code, databases, passwords. And in that world, power belongs to whoever controls the access. She thought she could intimidate me into giving it up. But the truth was, she didn't even understand what she was fighting for. That gave me an advantage that I started by creating 2 different versions of my company's digital infrastructure. The first one, the real one, was sealed shut like a vault. Two-factor authentication, encrypted backups, hidden servers, even off-site storage I paid extra to keep completely invisible. No one could touch it but me. The second one was the bait. The decoy. A perfect copy of the real system, but hollow inside. It looked identical, the same dashboard, the same files, the same contracts, but it was nothing more than a cage. Every time someone logged into it, I'd see it. Every download, every file opened, every password attempt. It all pinged me, but I didn't stop there. I hid what looked like a master password deep inside the fake system. I made it just hard enough to find that it felt like a secret treasure, like the one key that unlocked everything. But in reality, it was a poison pill. If anyone tried to use it, the system would lock instantly, send me their IP, their location, their device information, and it would leave them with nothing but a blank screen. Meanwhile, I moved the real company. Quietly, through my lawyer, I set up a brand new entity. New tax ID, new contracts, new ownership structure. Everything of actual value, the clients, the revenue streams, the intellectual property, was transferred under that umbrella. On paper, she didn't exist. Even if she somehow wormed her way into the old system, it wouldn't matter. Legally, she had no claim, but I knew she wouldn't. Stop chasing ghosts. So I left breadcrumbs. A sticky note on my desk with a fake password scribbled on it. A half-written email left open with login hints. Even a text I accidentally sent her that said, "Don't let anyone see this password." And just like I expected, she bit. Within days, my system logs lit up with failed attempts. First from her phone, then from her laptop, then from random Wi-Fi networks, like she was trying every angle. Each time, I got the alerts. Each time I smiled. She thought she was clawing her way into my empire. In reality, she was falling deeper, into a trap I controlled. And her arrogance only grew. She started telling people she was about to take over. Friends called me, saying she bragged at parties about how she'd be running the company soon. One of my employees even told me she'd hinted he should start respecting her, because soon she'd be the one signing his checks. That IT was laughable. But it was also dangerous, because every lie she told made her bolder. Every failed login made her more desperate. And desperation leads to mistakes. That was exactly what I wanted, because I didn't just want to stop her. I wanted to watch her crash. I wanted her to fall so deep into the web I'd spun that by the time she realized it was a trap, it was already too late. And soon, she was going to make the one move that would trigger everything. The break-in. The night she decided to stop. Hiding behind passwords and try to take the company by force. The night my trap would finally spring shut. The night it happened, I wasn't even supposed to be at the office. I had been working from home all day, trying to catch up on client proposals, when I realized I'd left an important hard drive in my desk. It was late, close to midnight, but I decided to swing by. Walking into an empty office building at night is eerie on its own. The silence, the hum of the lights, the echo of your own footsteps. But that night, something felt off the second I stepped inside. The air was heavy, like the whole place was holding its breath. I reached my office, grabbed the hard drive, and was just about to leave when I heard it. The faint click of the front door. Voices. Low, muffled, and definitely not friendly. I froze. The security cameras in the lobby streamed straight to my phone, so I pulled it out with shaking hands. What I saw made my stomach drop. Her. My ex. With 3 guys this time, not just 2. Bigger, meaner, armed with crowbars and baseball bats. They weren't here to talk. They were here to take. She was laughing, waving her hands like a queen giving orders. One of the guys pried open the reception desk drawers while another kicked a trash bin across the floor. And then I heard her say it, clear as day on the audio feed. Get into his office. Find the files. I want everything. My blood ran cold. But then, something incredible happened. The second they touched my computer, the trap I'd spent weeks building finally came alive. First, it let them in. I watched on my screen as they typed, thinking they'd cracked the password. My fake system opened, showing them what looked like client lists, financial records, admin panels. Their voices got louder, triumphant, as they thought they'd struck gold. But they had no idea. Every move they made was feeding me information, their devices, their IP addresses, their login attempts. And the system was already preparing to lock them out. Then one of them shouted, "I found it. Master password." My heart almost stopped. He had stumbled on the poison pill I'd planted. Try it. she barked. Use it. I watched as he typed it in. The second he hit enter, the entire system froze. The screens went black. Sirens didn't go off in the office. They didn't need to. The real alarm was digital. The trap sent everything straight to me, their exact location, their device fingerprints, even their photos from the security cameras. She didn't know it yet, but in that moment, she'd walked her whole crew into evidence. And then came the chaos that I could hear it through the feed, her screaming at them, the guys yelling back, one of them smashing a monitor in rage. The system refused to reboot. Every attempt just looped them back to a blank login screen. They tore through drawers, files, papers, but nothing they found mattered. The real business was already gone, safe, untouchable. Meanwhile, I slipped quietly out the back door of the building, my hard drive in hand, and drove away into the night. Let them tear the office apart. It didn't matter. What mattered was that they'd just incriminated themselves. The next morning, I made my move that I sent the camera footage to my lawyer. Copies of the digital logs, the IP addresses, even the attempted use of the master password. My lawyer's eyes went wide. You realize, he said, this isn't just harassment anymore. This is breaking and entering. This is cybercrime. This is evidence that can bury her. Exactly. Word got back to me a week later that the guys she brought were furious. She had promised them money, promised them control, promised them an empire. Instead, they got nothing but the risk of prison. And when criminals realize they've been lied to, they don't usually stay loyal. That I knew then that her empire of lies was crumbling from within. She had stepped into my office thinking she was about to take over my world. Instead, she had walked straight into a trap designed to destroy hers. The morning after the break-in, I woke up with a strange calm. My phone was flooded with alerts from the fake system, failed logins, desperate attempts to reboot, even screenshots of error messages they had triggered. It was chaos on their side, but for me, it was proof. Solid, undeniable proof that they had tried to steal what was mine. And then I did something I'd been planning for weeks. I flipped the final switch. The fake system, the one she thought she was clawing her way into, went dark. Every file disappeared. Every client contact evaporated. The website linked to that system? Offline. Social media accounts tied to her login? Gone. From her point of view, the company simply vanished overnight. And the best part? She couldn't tell anyone the truth. Without incriminating herself. She couldn't admit she had broken into my office, or that she had been digging into systems she never had rights to. All she could do was panic. And panic she did that I started getting messages from mutual acquaintances. What's going on? She's freaking out. Apparently, she was telling anyone who would listen that I had sabotaged her, that I had destroyed our company out of spite. The story made no sense to anyone else, but she screamed it like it was gospel. Meanwhile, I just kept running the real company under its new legal structure. Clients never even noticed. To them, everything was business as usual. Contracts were honored. Services delivered. The money kept flowing. But for her, it was like waking up to a ghost town that I heard from one of her partners. Yes, one of the same guy she dragged into my office. That she had promised them access to bank accounts, shares in the business, payouts worth tens of thousands. And now, with everything gone, they were demanding answers. That's when things got ugly for her. One night, she called me, her number popping up after weeks of silence. Against my better judgment, I answered. Her voice wasn't cold this time. It was frantic, shaky. You think you're clever? She snapped. You think you can just erase everything? They're coming after me because of you. I almost laughed. No, I said, calm as stone. They're coming after you because you lied to them. You promised them something you never had. You'll regret this, she screamed. I'll make sure of it. Click. She hung up, but the cracks in her empire were already spreading. Mutual friends told me she was bouncing checks, unable to pay rent, burning through what little savings she had left. The guys she brought into this mess stopped being her muscle and started being her predators. Without money or power to back her words, she was just another liar who had burned too many bridges. And here's the cruel irony. She had spent so much time trying to worm her way into the fake system that she never realized the real one had already left her behind. The company hadn't vanished. It was thriving, stronger than ever. She just wasn't part of it. Watching her unravel was almost surreal. She had walked into my office certain she would destroy me. Instead, she was the one falling apart. And I knew it was only a matter of time before she made another desperate move. Something reckless. Something that would finally push her over the edge and into the consequences she'd been running from. The digital vanish wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of her collapse. By the time the dust settled from the digital vanish, I knew. She was desperate. But I didn't realize just how far she was willing to push until the threats started again. That IT began with text messages. Short, sharp, angry. You can't hide forever. Pay up or you'll regret it. You think you're untouchable? You're not. I ignored them at first. I figured letting her scream into the void would be safer than engaging. But then the calls started coming, from numbers I didn't recognize. Men's voices. Low, threatening. One night, around 2 a.m., I got a call from a blocked number. I made the mistake of answering. Listen close, a deep voice said. We don't care about your drama with her. We just want our cut. You either pay what she promised, or we'll take it another way. My chest tightened. She promised you money? Half your company, the man growled. She said it was already hers. Said you stole it. And there it was, the lie she'd spun now hanging like a noose around her neck. I hate to break it to you, I said slowly. But she doesn't own a single % of this company. She's been lying to you. And if you keep following her down that road, you'll end up with nothing. The line went silent for a moment. Then a sharp laugh. We'll see. They hung up. That week, I started watching my back everywhere I went. Leaving the office, pulling into my driveway, even grocery shopping. Every shadow felt like it was moving. Every unfamiliar car made my pulse spike. And then it happened. One evening. As I was locking up the office, I saw them. Two of the same guys from before, leaning against a car across the street. They weren't even trying to hide that I pretended not to notice, got in my car, and drove off. A minute later, headlights appeared in my rearview mirror. They followed me through 3 turns, close enough that I could feel the weight of their presence. My hands gripped the steering wheel, sweat running down my neck. I didn't drive home. Instead, I pulled into a 24-hour gas station, lit up with cameras and people. They slowed down, circled once, and drove off. That was my confirmation. She had sent them again. But here's the thing about criminals. They don't work on faith. They work on results. And the more they realized she had lied, the less patience they had. A few days later, I got another call. This time, the voice wasn't threatening. It was tired, almost amused. You were right, the man said. She's been stringing us along. Promises, promises, nothing real. We're done with her. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Glad you figured it out before it got worse. He chuckled. Don't get too comfortable. She's still out there, and she's pissed. But we don't work for free, and she's got nothing left to pay with. That was the end of her muscle, and without them, she had no shield, no power, no leverage. The very people she tried to use against me now saw her for what she was, a liar, a manipulator, and worst of all, broke. But losing her hired thugs didn't stop her. If anything, it made her more reckless. Friends told me she was unraveling, showing up drunk at parties, screaming about how I had stolen her empire. She was still telling anyone who would listen that the business was half hers, even as she had no access, no proof, no claim. Her revenge had backfired spectacularly. Instead of taking me down, she burned every bridge she had left, and I knew, deep down, that she wasn't done. She was going to try something even more desperate, something bigger, something that would finally bring everything crashing down on her head. By this point, she had lost her muscle. The guys she dragged into this circus realized she had nothing to offer, and they left her to fend for herself. But that didn't stop her from running her mouth. She was still out there, telling anyone who would listen that she was my partner, that the company was half hers, that I was a thief who had stolen what was rightfully hers. At parties, at bars, even online, she was spinning her version of reality, trying to paint me as the villain. But there was one problem for her. I had receipts, every login attempt, every security alert, every clip of camera footage from the night of the break-in, the voice recordings from her screaming orders while her crew trashed my office, even screenshots of her IP address trying to crack passwords at 3 a.m. And now, I was done playing defense. I started with her circle of friends. Quietly, I sent out clips of the camera footage, her breaking into my office, dragging men with bats behind her, shouting that she wanted everything. No commentary from me. No dramatic captions. Just the raw footage. The reactions were immediate. People who had once defended her suddenly went silent. Friends she bragged to started cutting ties. I heard through the grapevine that she tried to claim the video was doctored, but no one bought it. The evidence was too clear. Next, I moved on to her new partners. Remember the guys she had promised money to? I sent them the digital logs. Screenshots of the fake system she had been clawing at, showing her failed logins, her desperate attempts. And at the bottom of the report, the killer blow, the legal documents showing that she had never owned a single % of the company. Not then, not ever did I didn't get a reply, but I didn't need one. I knew they'd see it. And I knew they'd realize she had played them like pawns. Then I took it one step further. She had a job, just some mediocre admin work at a company in town. I didn't want to involve innocent people, but she had made herself a danger. So I sent her employer a neat little folder, footage of her break-in, proof of her harassment, and a cover letter that said, "This person has been attempting corporate sabotage." 2 days later, she was fired. That was the final straw. The calls started again, but this time they weren't threats. They were breakdowns. She'd call late at night, slurring her words, begging me to fix this, to take the videos down, to stop ruining her life. But the truth was, I wasn't ruining anything. She had done it to herself. I had just turned on the lights so everyone else could see it. Her reputation collapsed almost overnight. People avoided her. Friends blocked her. Even the men she thought would protect her now wanted nothing to do with her. She had burned every bridge, and now the ashes were all she had left. And for me, it was freedom. For the first time in months, I could breathe. The weight was lifting. My business was thriving, untouched, and she was finally too busy trying to clean up the mess of her own making to come after me anymore. But I knew one thing. Desperate people don't go down quietly. And in her desperation, she was about to make one last move. One final, reckless act that would bring everything crashing down for her. For good, by the time she lost her job, her friends, and her so-called partners, I thought she might finally disappear. Most people would have taken the hint, licked their wounds, and faded out of my life. But not her. When desperate people have nothing left, they don't walk away. They explode. And she exploded in the ugliest way possible. IT started with another wave of threats. Voicemails this time. Her voice hoarse, frantic, venomous. "You ruined me. You think you've won? This isn't over. You'll pay for this. I swear on my life." I saved every one of them. Then, late one Friday night, I got the notification. Someone was trying to access the decoy system again. Not just from one device, multiple, all at once. It was sloppy, desperate, like she had begged every hacker she could find to help her. I watched the logs in real time. 5 different IPs hammering the system, trying password after password. They were inside the fake dashboard, clicking everywhere, convinced they were clawing their way into something valuable. And then, one of them found it again, the master password. I almost felt sorry for them. Almost. Because this time, when they entered it, the trap didn't just lock the system. It triggered the full payload. Screens went black, and instead of a blank login screen, a single message appeared in red across every monitor. "This system is monitored. Your activity has been recorded. Law enforcement has been notified." And it wasn't a bluff. The trap automatically forwarded the logs to my lawyer, who had already prepared a case file. Every IP address, every attempted breach, every timestamp. All went into a neat report ready for the authorities. Within hours, I had copies sent to the police. My lawyer called me the next morning, his voice steady. "You just handed them the rope she hung herself with." Meanwhile, she was unraveling in real time. That same weekend, she showed up at my office, alone this time. Her makeup was smeared, her clothes wrinkled, and her eyes wild. She banged on the locked glass doors, screaming for me to come out. "You can't do this to me," she wailed, her voice breaking. "I made you. You owe me." I stayed inside, silent, watching from the shadows as security called the cops. When they arrived, she tried to spin her story, yelling that she was the co-owner of the business. But with no papers, no contracts, no proof, and with the break-in footage already in police hands, her words meant nothing. The officers didn't arrest her that night, but they escorted her off the property. And I could see it in her face. She knew the walls were closing in. The real blow came a week later. My lawyer called to tell me charges were being filed. Breaking and entering. Attempted fraud. Cybercrime. all backed by the logs, the video, the voicemails. She wasn't just a crazy ex anymore. She was a criminal, and word spread fast. Whatever scraps of reputation she had left were gone. Her family stopped talking to her. Her crew cut ties completely. Even the people who once pitted her now avoided her like she was radioactive. I had thought the breakup was the worst part of my story. But watching her collapse, watching her lies and her greed consume her, was the real ending. She had set out to take everything from me. Instead, she had destroyed herself, and as for me, I walked away with my company intact, my freedom secure, and a life finally clear of her poison. The war was over. When the dust finally settled, my life felt quiet. For the first time in months, maybe years, there was no constant buzzing in the back of my mind, no paranoia that someone was trying to tear everything down. The war was over, and I had won, not by screaming, not by fighting fire with fire, but by being patient, methodical, and letting her destroy herself. The charges against her didn't just shut the door, it sealed it. She couldn't call me anymore. She couldn't show up at my office. Every attempt to drag me into her drama now went through lawyers and courts, and all I had to do was hand over the evidence. The law did the rest. Meanwhile, my business thrived. Without her chaos in the background, I was sharper, more focused. Clients noticed. New deals came in. I expanded, hired more staff, and even opened a second office. And for me personally, it was like I'd shed a weight I didn't even realize I'd been carrying. I started taking care of myself again, going to the gym, reconnecting with friends I'd drifted from, even traveling for the first time in years. Looking back, I realized something important. She had never wanted me. She had wanted what I built. She didn't care about the sleepless nights, the failures, the grind it took to get here. She only wanted the payoff, and that's why she lost. Because the truth is, when you try to steal something you didn't earn, you always end up empty-handed. Do I regret ever being with her? No. Regret is wasted energy. What I took from all of this was a lesson. Guard your dreams. Protect what you build. And never underestimate how far greed can push someone. These days, I don't think about her much. She's a ghost, just another story in my past. And I'm alive, free, successful, and happier than I've ever been. Her revenge was meant to destroy me. Instead, it became the fuel that pushed me to rebuild stronger. If you're listening to this, maybe going through something similar, take it from me. Sometimes the best revenge isn't shouting or fighting back. It's staying calm, playing smart, and letting time and truth do the work. And trust me, the truth always wins. And now, I've got a question for you. Did I do the right thing? What would you have done if you were in my shoes? If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Hit that like button to let me know you want more, and drop a comment below with your thoughts. I'd love to hear your take on this.